So, Tamarack,
Yes.
I was walking down Burrard Street and take a look at your Discord real quick here.
Oh no, not TEDx. Why?
What? That wasn't the first thing I wanted you to look at. But yeah, I was walking down Burrard, and I see this poster or this ad for Layla Yang, who
Yes.
works for a real estate company.
Oh,
And
good.
immediately I spotted two things. One, it still shows the Twitter logo, and rightfully so.
Which is based.
Yes.
I remind you, we will stop dead naming Twitter when Elon stops dead naming his daughter.
Exactly. And I saw the TEDx logo, as you correctly saw. I was kind of hoping that you would go like, well, what am I looking at here? But you immediately saw the same thing I did. So you and I are in the same wavelength. So I went and looked up this TEDx Shaughnessy. Not TEDx Vancouver, TEDx Shaughnessy.
Like, okay, for those of you who are unfamiliar, TED Talks is basically a way for like the capitalist class, the tech bro capitalist class, to jerk themselves off. TEDx, anyone can just have one if they just pay for the license.
Yeah.
You can have a TEDx your backyard and then have a TED Talk.
This is sort of a meta conversation to a previous cold opening we did when I shared that that AI conversation from the CBC. That guy ran a TEDx.
Oh, of course he did. Again, this is for tech bros, like the tech elites, to jack themselves off.
So TEDx Shaughnessy really stood out to me. Because, like, why does Shaughnessy, one of the old money neighborhoods in Vancouver,
yes,
need its own TED? And so I went and looked at what Layla Yang, a real estate agent, would talk about at TEDx. And naturally, it shows the sponsors of TEDx Shaughnessy. And I think, like, let's not name them, please. Let's not name the companies. I'm going to blurt that. I'm going to censor them. I'm not advertising these companies, but yes, real estate.
No, those are my guesses for the entire sponsor board.
Don't mention companies. I didn't even mention the real estate company she works for. So
oh my God, is it? Fuck.
No, it's not. But a couple of them, but they all are real estate.
Yeah.
So I was just like, oh boy, like, some TED Talks are good. I have genuinely enjoyed some TED Talks. I really like the one by Elizabeth Holmes. But anyway.
Oh, fuck, yes.
now you understand. You're like, who's Liz? Oh, wait, her.
I always forget her name.
Yeah.
Because she's just insane.
Well, no, she's just...
Her stage presence is kind of incredible.
She wanted to be the Steve Jobs of blood machines.
Yes.
She dressed like Steve Jobs. It was so weird. So, in any event, Layla Yang did a talk on real estate at TEDx. And if you're in real estate, sure, whatever, I don't care. But it's really funny because her entire talk was what I would expect out of a real estate agent, as in, don't piss off your client. That was what her entire talk was like. She was talking about how she was once an airline stewardess or something like that, and then she went on to become a real estate agent for people who buy $1 million homes, as if somehow that really matters, because I swear to God, every house sold in Vancouver is $1 million home.
Yeah, a mildly dated website now is a Crackshacker Mansion, where it shows you a photo of a rundown house, and it asks you whether or not this is more than $2 million.
So Layla Yang has the bio that says she's a real estate agent and also an actor.
Yes.
And so I was like, what the fuck is she acting in? And it turns out that she tried to get her real estate agency to do like an entire series about selling homes, elite selling of homes. And like, let me send you the video, and I will link the video in the show notes.
I'm looking at the roster for TEDx Shaughnessy.
Oh no, just watch this video. Watch this video. Watch this video.
Good grief, is this just everybody I thought it was going to be? Like, everybody.
Are you watching the video? Yes or no?
1 sec.
Just watch the video because I don't care about that. But that part is as insane as every other real estate agency I come across.
The editing on this hurts.
Oh, I know. Isn't this insane?
This is I'm at the part where she's getting fired for seducing her boss's greasy husband, client's greasy husband.
Yes. So
wait, is this where that name is familiar from?
She's gotten in trouble with being threatening to her clients.
Yes.
Yeah. So again, like we're not going to play this video audio because like the audio for this particular trailer is largely in Mandarin. So we're not going to play it on here because I don't even know what I would want to keep. It's just,
and I'm also not going to include the video because like I am no pro at editing, as YouTube viewers can attest to. The editing on this video hurts. I will include a link if you feel the need to suffer.
Oh yeah, this will be in the show notes for the audio version.
Yeah.
But so the thing is like it's called Agent Unbreakable, and it was filmed, or rather the trailer was made in February 2021. So like this was made during COVID. And
no masks.
No
whatsoever.
masks. No masks. You don't see anything like that at all. So maybe they were filming in 2019. I don't know. But the thing is that it never aired. So
and
I would love to know what happened with all this video that they made for this.
I mean, the raw B-roll would be really fun to locate.
So that's not even the worst part, because she still makes videos. Like if you go to her personal website, that is, I don't think it's actually on the billboard itself, but it has like a dance routine between her and her real estate agents.
Okay, so if I search Lele Yang, PREC, oh hey, here we go.
And it's just a dance routine. She's doing a dance routine. So like she tries and be like this millionaire real estate agent, and she's doing dance routines and has done a TEDx talk on doing real estate.
Wow. Which she proudly posts on her website.
Yes, I like, okay, to be fair, I am a performer, so I can sort of understand the desire to want to do this sort of thing. But what the fuck?
1, 2, 3.
What's up, sports fans? Welcome to the Shawinigan Baseball Moments podcast. I'm Tamarack. My pronouns are they, them, or it.
I'm going to correct you on this one. It's the Shawinigan Moments podcast. There's no sports in this. And my name is Heather, and I use she or they pronouns.
Do not listen to her. We are continuing our baseball arc, sorry. Instead of talking about a Canadian who played for an American team, barely, we're going to talk about an American who played for a Canadian team, barely. But first, we have the news. What do you got? You cannot beat Layla Yang.
No, I will not be. I will not
the
be
unbreakable realtor.
I will not be able to beat Layla Yang, but I can at least say that I can talk about some other forms of snakes.
Enough is enough! I have had it with these motherfucking snakes on this motherfucking plane! Everybody strap in! I'm about to open some fucking windows.
That was a clip from the movie Snakes on a Plane. Probably one of the best B movies to have ever been made.
Honestly, yes.
Okay, so before I get into the actual news, because it does relate to this, I genuinely love Snakes on a Plane. Like, it is the dumbest, stupidest movie I've ever watched in my life, and it's also the most fun.
Unironic masterpiece. It's up there with actual Cannibal Shia LaBeouf for like things that shouldn't work but so fucking work.
The story about Snakes on a Plane is rather interesting because they wrote the script with Samuel L. Jackson in mind, I believe. And then at some point they were like, we're going to rename the movie from Snakes on a Plane to it was like Pacific Flight 923 or something stupid like that.
Yeah.
And Samuel L. Jackson's like, you're keeping that name or I'm leaving.
Yes. This is going to be Snakes on a Plane.
So this comes from the CBC. And it does involve some slithering creatures, but not snakes this time around. Eels writhe on Vancouver airport tarmac after escaping from box. Eels were collected and repackaged. Companies in contact with customer, according to Air Canada. And they do make a reference to the 2006 film Snakes on a Plane. But what it turns out is, and there's a video from Twitter that shows this happening, but a bunch of eels that were in a box had managed to escape. Like, the box was punctured at some point, and they were all like just writhing on the tarmac. And this was like on one of the days that we had something like 30 plus degree weather, which this sucked. And so I could only imagine what it was like for eels, which are fish.
Yes, some unagi was made upon the tarmac that day.
Yeah, I imagine that these were fish intended for food, not for anything else. Because, like, why else would you ship eels? But they were all alive.
Yeah, that's the perplexing part. Like, is there a freshness with... I don't eat meat and haven't for like 15 years, so I don't know. Is there like a freshness thing?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, the thing is we don't get told. Like, this is a very short news article, admittedly, because the video itself is just, the important part is a bunch of eels just struggling on a tarmac in the hot sun during the heat wave that we had last week. And yeah, I feel bad for the creatures.
Oh, I'm looking at it. Oh,
yeah, you can just see them just struggling on the pavement there.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah, and like this girl's screaming, and like you can just see the box, like they were just sliding down the conveyor belt on the on that truck there.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
It is.
I find eels, like their faces, I find them weirdly cute.
Yeah, and this, I'm not 100% certain, but I think this is in the international section because they're all big planes. One of the tail fins, I believe, is a non-Canadian airline there, at least. So it must have come from like some flight overseas. It just doesn't say in the article.
It might have been freight forwarded, but yeah, probably somebody was just packing in their stowed luggage, probably a like iced box of eels or something, I'd imagine.
Yeah. And the thing is like there's been some issues in the past where eels have been seized. To the best of my knowledge, these were imported legally. Again, I'm a vegetarian. I don't really have much to say other than I really felt bad for seeing those eels on the tarmac the way they were.
Yeah, they're cuties.
I had an excuse to play a clip from Snakes on a Plane, and I really felt that it was a worthwhile article for today.
Yes, I too am sick of these motherfucking eels on this motherfucking plane. They belong in the river habitats that they were originally in. Put them back.
So going back to Snakes on a Plane, I saw Snakes on a Plane in a theater. I can safely say that clip that I played earlier, I had not heard those words after he said the famous line.
Everybody strap in. I'm
yes.
about to open some windows.
Yes. And the thing is that when people, like when I was in the movie theater and he said, I'm tired of these motherfucking snakes on this motherfucking plane, or whatever it was he said now, everybody erupted in cheer and it drowned out those sentences. So
that was in every trailer was that line, though.
I know. And everybody wanted to hear Samuel L. Jackson say this because it's such a cool line. It's so stupid and cool at the same time. It's so good. But again, he says it and none of us know what was being said afterward because everybody was just cheering about the fact that he finally said it.
He's also one of those people with like such a voice and like such a presence in like how he says things. The man could read a phone book and have everyone on the edge of their seats.
Well, Samuel L. Jackson's an incredibly gifted actor. Like, I enjoy watching him play, even in shit movies. Like, Snakes on a Plane is not a great movie, and he does great. Like, he's great in the Star Wars prequels, and that's what made the prequels a little bit more palatable. And he's great in the Marvel movies, despite the fact that I got so tired of Marvel movies.
This is the second episode in a row where I introduce a wedge between us. I am a full-throated prequel apologist. I think they were good. Oh yeah.
What is your favorite Samuel L. Jackson movie then?
That is difficult to decide. I don't think I can pick one.
He was in Jurassic Park, I think. I try to remember if that was him or not. I'm pretty certain it was.
Yeah, but for like a hot minute.
Hold on to your butts.
So that's one of his earlier roles. Like he's been acting since like the 80s, although I think even earlier than that. It's like he's actually fairly old now. He's like I think he's in his 70s.
Yeah, and he's still going.
But he's been in a whole whack load of movies, and like every time I've seen him in a movie, like I want to say he's probably been in like 4 dozen movies by now, and like every time he does a role, he just fucking owns
it.
He just kills it. Whatever role he takes on, he's good. Like he was. One of the more fun roles that he did was he was in Kingsman: The Secret Service.
Yes.
So that was probably one of the more fun roles that I've seen him in. But I'm just trying to remember the last movie I even saw him with it, and like
216 actor credits.
216. Jesus Christ. Anyway, Samuel L. Jackson rules, and I'm so glad he did Snakes on a Plane. And that's the news.
Last episode, again, in our baseball arc of Shawinigan Baseball Moments, the podcast about Shawinigan baseball. I love you. Love you, Heather.
Okay, whatever. Go on. Ruining this podcast with sports.
We talked. Hey, this was your idea.
Anyways.
This is your idea. I just ruined it. So last episode we talked about women's softball slowly morphing into baseball and then fizzling out. Today we're going to talk about someone who wasn't really a baseball player who ended up having a kind of legendary baseball career. Roll the clip.
Record numbers of cheering Montrealers helped Jackie Robinson break baseball's color bar that year. He never forgot the city that launched his journey to baseball's Hall of Fame.
That's right. We're talking about Jackie Robinson, my favorite Roosevelt out of the Roosevelts in American public consciousness around that time. Middle name was Roosevelt.
That's quite a name choice there.
Yes, and also, as my episodes are known to have, the hauntology of this episode, because that name's gonna come up a lot. So, Jackie was born Jack Roosevelt Robinson on January 31st, 1919. Note his date of birth in fake Cairo in Georgia. So he's an Aquarius. Important facts.
Okay.
The middle
I didn't
name
know
was
that I didn't know he fell into sapphic circles, but okay.
He's an Aquarius. You gotta watch out for him. Anyway, the middle name was in honor of Theodore Roosevelt, which is dark if I've ever heard one, considering Teddy's view on African Americans. But also, he was a president of his time, so fair.
Mm.
The very next year, his father left his mother, and his family, including their extended family, basically picked up sticks and moved to a pair of houses next to each other in Pasadena, California. One of these 2 houses still stands to this day, but the neighborhood in which he grew up throughout kind of the twilight years of his career would be torn up and bifurcated by California 210, a drawn-out process spanning from 58 to the mid-70s.
I'm certain that all the freeways that were built through all of these random neighborhoods that were randomly chosen to build these brand new motorways had nothing to do with anything other than randomness.
I originally, when I wrote this, I was going to be like, grew up near the only non-racially motivated highway in California, which was the Arroyo Freeway. But his neighborhood was not impacted by the Arroyo Freeway because it was mostly around the river, which is why it didn't plow down as much. Unfortunately, his neighborhood was in the path of the 210, which very much was where, look at the red line map that the banks drew up because they did their racism for them. And highways basically just took a marker through it.
And just for the record, if you're wondering, if you live in Vancouver and you take one of the overpasses that goes into downtown Vancouver, we're talking about the Dunsmuir or Georgia Street viaducts. Those cut through a historical black neighborhood as well. So it happened in this country too.
Called Hogan's Alley.
Mm-hmm.
And it is every Vancouverite's sacred duty to make sure when those overpasses come down, we fucking hold city council to their promise to restore Hogan's Alley.
You know that won't happen with Ken Sim.
Incredible vacation experience for the whole family.
Come on out.
Join the fun.
What a city.
Don't miss it.
3-day tickets and information at the Royal Bank.
I have no comment.
I think I might have to censor that out.
Probably, yes. So they moved to Pasadena, California. Despite the relative affluence of Pasadena at the time, they lived in relative poverty because African-American family surviving in a rather touristy area. To top off the kind of weird economics of tourist towns, Jackie's mother, who was the primary breadwinner for their household, survived mostly off of informal employment, just odd jobs, rather than anything particularly stable during his upbringing. So shit was tight. However, growing up in a fairly well-off kind of twin city to Los Angeles would of course give Jackie access to all the recreational opportunities and amenities befitting an just kidding. That shit was whites only, even in California at the time.
What, progressive California was once racist and hasn't been racist since a certain president was elected?
Yeah. Unfortunately,
anyways.
No. Obama wasn't president yet, so racism wasn't solved. But we're going to solve racism in baseball.
My mistake. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, so all the recreational facilities and sporting things that would have hypothetically been made available weren't. So he joined a gang instead, though only briefly, or it was heavily glossed over in materials written about him, because I could only find the one reference to this.
That can also be very coded too, like if somebody makes a reference to this.
As early as junior high, he already showed a lot of talent for sports. He competed in track and field. He was a quarterback for the hand egg team.
You gotta stop calling gridiron football hand egg.
Sorry, that's why.
There are people out there who do like football, and I may disagree with their choices, but like whatever.
He was a quarterback for his junior high football team, guard for their basketball team, and he was also a shortstop and catcher for the varsity baseball team, which is why I made reference to the dick box last episode when it came up.
Fuck you and your dick box.
Dick box is done. He never plays this position again.
Fair enough.
I guess gone until next episode. I don't know if I'm going to bring it back. Is it a good bit? Tell us in the comments.
By the time we do the recording, I don't think the comments will matter.
No. Side note, I was today years old when I learned that varsity jackets aren't just generic school athletic wear. You actually need to earn them, and he had varsity jackets for all 4 of these sports.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I only learned what lettered mean, and he was in fact lettered for track, football, basketball, and baseball.
Damn.
Yeah, crazy. This is sort of a family thing because his brother, Mac Robinson, in 1936 was headed off on a little trip with one Jesse Owens to go make a bunch of Nazis mad at the Berlin Olympics, where Jesse and Mac were first and second in the 200-meter dash, respectively. If you wondered who the other fellow is on the podium that Hitler didn't want to shake hands with.
Of course. Hitler, yes. Noted race enthusiast.
Yes. The very year that was happening, Jackie won the Pacific Coast, not going to say that word, tennis tournament in the junior boys singles division.
Yeah, this is a time where that word was being used to describe the players that were playing in that league. And I don't know if I should ever use it in the historical context, and I don't feel like it.
I am certain of my stance on this, and I won't.
Yeah, that's fair.
Give no credence to the people who decided that was the appropriate term, and I'm unconvinced by historians saying that using the language of the time is okay.
Yeah.
It's not. It wasn't okay then, it's not okay now. I don't see a debate. Anyway, We sadly would not get a Jackie Robinson tennis career out of the deal, but I find the juxtaposition interesting that Jackie winning a segregated tennis tournament at the same time his brother was ruining Hitler's day is a little striking. Maybe something to ponder on. That said, the majority of team sports he participated in during school, his school was a desegregated school, so he was on desegregated team. The tennis example I just find particularly grating. This athletic performance would continue throughout his high school career. He was noted to be an outstanding athlete, once again taking up multiple sports. He would also be elected, as a little side note for his high school career, to a body of his high school called the Lancers, which were student-run cops. So
oh dear.
Much like Paw Patrol, ACAB did briefly apply to Jackie Robinson.
Wait, so this wasn't like a hall monitor situation, which I've seen. Like, I've never had a hall monitor in school before because it was not a thing where I was going to, but like it's been a thing portrayed in like popular media from the States. It's not like that. It's more.
I think that's mostly what it was. It's like enforcing school rules.
Okay.
Sort of like a student government sort of dealio. That's the vibe I got.
Famously are never corrupt.
Yes, which famously are never corrupt. Anyway, so conversely, in January of 1938, as a contrasting element to this stint as a Lancer, in his sophomore year, he was arrested for a verbal altercation with a cop, a dispute over the detention of one of his friends, for which he was given a 2-year suspended sentence for this terrible, awful crime of arguing, perhaps aggressively, with a police officer.
Hey, you know what? You do the crime, you got to do the time, right? It doesn't matter what the law says. The law is correct in all cases.
Yes, this will not be the first totally not a fucking crime thing that he ended up getting in shit for.
What do you mean? There's racial bias in the police?
Always has been. It's what they're for.
Well, that shatters my worldview.
So, upon graduation from high school, he enrolled in UCLA. So suck it, conservatives. UCLA was woke before you were fucking born. His main sport was actually football. I cannot stress that enough. He actually wasn't a particularly good baseball player at this time, like an exceptionally good baseball player.
He was an inverse Bo Jackson.
Yeah. So he was one of 4 African-American students who were players in the 1939 UCLA Bruins roster, which also made UCLA the most integrated team at the time for nominally desegregated at the time college football. He continued on playing track and baseball in college sports, but football was his main thing. However, just before graduation, he actually bounced out of college. He did not graduate to join a New Deal era organization called the National Youth Administration as an athletic director for his regional area. The National Youth Administration was part of Works Progress Administration. It's a New Deal thing, created in 1935. The idea is to put America's youth to socially useful and constructive work with a sub-goal of preventing high school and college dropouts, which is really ironic that he went to work for them by dropping out of college. But it had youths being paid a pretty good wage for the time, doing productive things like building furniture, making toys, construction and repair of public buildings, including gymnasiums, sports fields, laying and repairing sidewalks, construction of playground equipment, and military ordnance assembly. The good stuff, you know? Public goods.
It's kind of making me think of, I'm just trying to think of if it's similar to that of, was it Katamavik? Which I think did something very similar. Katamavik is kind of a little bit, I think it changed quite a bit from its original, but like, this sounds like, actually probably a Katamavik might even be a poor description of it, but like.
Yeah, this is a like part-time jobs guarantee program, like a lot of the Works Progress Administration little sub-program. An additional little fun fact about the National Youth Administration is that it was not gender discriminatory. It was open to young women as well.
And they were paid 75% of the wages that the boys were making.
I think that's what the 30 to 40 part is.
Oh, great. Actually, that's probably on the fucking nose then. Fucking hate this.
Yeah. Anyway, unfortunately, Jackie joined just in time for the organization to be shut down, so he decided to strike it out in professional football, which would again be cut short by the attack on Pearl Harbor and thus the draft.
So basically, he quit college to go work for an organization that paid however much, and then all of a sudden Japan attacks the United States and he's out of work. And
yeah, he was working there for under a year.
Oh, so wait, I just realized what you're talking about here. So the organization was shut down, and then he went to play football, and then that had to go and stop because of Pearl Harbor.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, bit of a run, and bit of foreshadowing. He would basically never play football again, which is kind of strange. He does this weird pivot after the war. So, as one does, as someone on the West Coast, he joined the Black Panthers, but not those ones.
Wait. that did not go in a direction I was going like, wait a second, the Black Panthers. This is 1940s.
Yes. When he was drafted, he successfully petitioned to be enrolled in officer training and was commissioned in 1943 as a second lieutenant. But the unit he was assigned to with his draft was the 761st Black Panthers, a quote-unquote cavalry division. It was a tank division, and they are fairly famous of being an incredibly effective fighting unit. However, he would never be deployed for two factors. The first, an ankle injury from college sports delayed the green light for deployment by 2 years. He had to get some tests, run some certifications, and things like that to make sure he was fit for deployment. Again, strange for a cavalry division that was mostly mechanized, but c'est la vie. The second was an incident where he boarded a desegregated army bus with the wife of a fellow officer and was told by the driver to sit in the back of the bus, which he refused.
Cool beans.
Army buses at this time ran their own bus lines, and they were strictly desegregated buses.
But you had that one dickhead driver who decided that he was going to enforce some sort of racial bullshit.
Yeah, the driver relented to get underway, but when they arrived at their stop, called the MPs on Robinson.
The military police, you mean?
Yes, the military police. Despite no actual code violation having occurred, he was recommended by the interrogating officers who detained him for a court-martial for this offense. Whatever the fuck the offense was, which his CO refused to authorize.
What's a CO?
Commanding officer, sorry. So commanding officer refused to authorize any court-martial, probably seeing that this was fucking bullshit, and his commanding officer was commanding an entirely, segregated unit. He was in command of the Black Panthers. He knew what he was getting into. His commanding officer refused to authorize this bullshit court-martial. So what happened next was, of course, the most logical thing. He was transferred to another unit, whose commander approved of charges of insubordination, disturbing the peace, and public drunkenness. Though Robinson was a deeply religious man and was not known to drink.
So a known teetotaler basically was suggested to have engaged in public drunkenness. That's cool.
Yes, he would ultimately be acquitted for these charges, and eventually was honorably discharged without ever being deployed or seeing combat. So all in all,
what year did he get kicked out of the military then?
44.
Okay, so a year left in the war.
Yes. He was just discharged. His unit primarily fought in Europe, so their job was mostly done. They didn't need fresh junior officers in particular. The Soviets had already taken Berlin by this point. It was over. Over. So yeah, he was honorably discharged, never being deployed. All in all, great military career. I mean this unironically. If you can get out of the army in modern days without ever being deployed, fan-fucking-tastic. All power to you.
You get a pension out of it.
Yeah, you get all the benefits with none of the having to do horrifying war crimes.
Or have war crimes done to you.
Yes, or have war crimes, or in some cases with the burn pits, just regular old crimes done to you.
Or, get exposed to random-ass chemicals such as the explosive, what do you call that armor plating they use on certain tanks now that's made of uranium?
Explosive reactive armor.
Yeah, it's uranium, right?
Oh, ERA is different. Depleted uranium armor, though, is also not great for you.
Yeah, or, the burn pits part is pretty fucked up. Having learned about burn pits, that is some of the most awful shit I've ever heard of. And now you wonder why a whole bunch of ex-military people from Iraq are getting weird cancers.
Yeah, pretty much. Again, that falls into the category of just regular old crimes done to you by your government.
Yeah, the government never causes harm to its own people.
Does it ever? Anyhow, during his time in the army, he met again, not gonna say it, American League player for the Kansas City Monarchs. This connection would, in some roundabout ways, materialize into a $400 a month or $6,581 a month today, contract to play as a shortstop for the Monarchs in the season of 1945.
I'm surprised at how much they're getting paid considering this league. Like, that's not a lot of money. This is American dollars, right?
Yes.
Okay, so, they're making, six figures in Canadian dollars just playing, in today's money in that particular league. I did not expect him to get paid that much.
Honestly, yeah. Like, this is good money for the time.
No, absolutely.
He was kind of worth it. He played a stellar season overall. 47 games, .387
That's really good.
That's not even his full power.
Oh, Jesus.
5 home runs, 13 stolen bases, which I hope he returned.
No, I should never give him back. Don't give your stolen bases back. You earned them.
But he did not find this league to his liking. Low pay relative to what major league players were making.
Yep.
But again, this is the censored American league, so fair. A brutal travel schedule that was mostly bus driven because air travel wasn't a thing at the time, really. And I guess they cheaped out and didn't want to do rail tickets for some actual high-speed transit for the day and age. And the strong presence of gambling interests in the league, which offended his deeply Christian sensibilities.
Yeah, of course, to this day, gambling is not a problem in Major League Baseball. There is no ongoing story in Major League Baseball today involving any player from a team in California.
I don't follow baseball news, but I am assuming
it involves a player whose agent was messing about with. Yeah, I don't want to get too much into it.
Fair. Also, he'd played in desegregated college sports, so a lot of his white peers would have gone on to like NFL feeder teams, because again, he wasn't really a baseball player, despite being a fantastic baseball player. So like, he saw where things could go and like what a career could be. Given that there was precedent for African-American men to play in Major League Baseball, Moses Fleetwood Walker played for the Red Sox in 1884, he decided to attend the April 1945 tryouts for the Sox, which turned out to be mostly a sham. Only management was present for the tryouts. However, he was still subjected to a bunch of racial slurs and epithets the entire time, and would leave humiliated. And the Sox, as I noted last episode, would be the last team to desegregate.
Cool.
Yeah.
The uncomfortable part for me is that I actually like the Red Sox, like in their current form, I should add. But it is upsetting to know that one of my favorite teams in Major League Baseball is the most racist. Is that the best way to describe it? I don't know if we're going to be trying to compete here on this one, but it's definitely
It was run by an absolute piece of shit at the time.
Yes, I think that's a good way of describing this.
However, there was a certain character from last episode, Wesley Branch Rickey, which I swear was his actual name, who is the general manager for the Brooklyn Dodgers. And he was scouting the Not Gonna Say It leagues for their International League feeder team, the Montreal Royals. And in August of 1945, he signed Robinson for $600 a month, or $10,472 a month today.
That's really good money.
With the unwritten stipulation that he turned the other cheek when it came to racial antagonism.
Oh, cool. I would love to join a league where if I get yelled all sorts of queerphobic epitaphs in my direction. Yes. I feel like that would be very good for my morale.
Yes, here's a little bit of a bonus, but like, if they call you a dyke, you're not allowed to say anything.
Well, I would take that as a compliment, but that's okay.
Yeah, in that day and age, no. Staying silent in the face of racial jeering was a thing he was famous for not doing. And also, the Kansas City Monarchs were not compensated at all for Robinson's departure because there weren't reserve clauses in his contracts.
If I would look at this from a purely business standpoint, that was the Monarchs' fault.
Yes, it's shitty, but that's the biz.
Yeah.
His career in the Royals gets off to a start. He reports to Daytona Beach in Florida for spring training for 1946. First off, Clay Hopper, the Royals manager, asks Branch Rickey to re-sign Robinson to another Dodgers affiliate team, which Rickey refused. He then wasn't allowed to stay at the team hotel because it was segregated and whites only. So he was put up by activists Joe and Dufferin Harris, who were a civil rights leader and politician in the local area, and a writer and editor for Daytona Beach News Journal, respectively, which wasn't at all a dangerous idea to shove somebody from their hotel to a bunch of political activists, but you do you, racist idiots. If they weren't dumb, they wouldn't be racist. The Dodgers didn't actually have a spring training facility, so they were denied several venues on account of Robinson and another African-American player for another Dodgers feeder team.
I just realized, and something I should add here, this is 1946.
Yes.
So this would have been the return of these teams doing spring training in these warmer states.
Yes. This would have been basically the first season they would have been allowed to do this. And this is the shit the Royals had to deal with.
Cool.
Yeah. I do kind of wonder, after that bit from your episode, how many times thought crossed Ricky's mind that fuck, we should have just done this in New York. We should have gone back to Jersey.
But then you'd be in New Jersey. No, actually, I shouldn't say that.
True.
I've been to New Jersey. It's common for people in New York to go and shit on New Jersey, but I actually think New Jersey is a lovely place. But I'm certain that somebody I know who's friends with me, who's from New Jersey, is gonna be like, "What the fuck is she on about?" But anyway.
Jersey's actually going to get a hell of a shout out of uncritical praise in a moment here.
Okay, cool.
The police chief of Sanford, Florida, threatened to cancel any games in his municipality, regardless of venue's approval, where Robinson was participating.
I love how the police are protecting everybody by just restricting a black man from playing a sports game.
Protect and serve, baby. Yeah, ACAB all the way. In Jacksonville, the stadium that they had booked for, I believe, an exhibition game was padlocked shut on game day without warning.
I'm sure the contract stipulated that was permitted.
Probably due to there's like white boys only clause in state law where they can do this. Who knows? Equal protection didn't exist at this point in time, so things were rough. Eventually, Ricky was able to secure a reliable field in Daytona Beach for an exhibition game with the Dodgers, wherein Robinson was the first black player to play against a major league team since 1884. That's right. The guy from the Red Sox was the first and last up until then.
Holy shit.
During spring training, Robinson didn't actually do super well, certainly not as well as he did in the past league, and was relocated from shortstop to second base, which would kind of be his prime position for most of his career. Apparently shorter throws or whatever. I don't actually know what a shortstop is.
Okay, so shortstop. Okay, so you have your inner and your outer field, and your inner field is where you have your other bases, right? And you have somebody on third, you have somebody on second, and you have somebody on first, and you have somebody at home plate, and you have your pitcher. And the shortstop's role is you're sort of attached to the hip with the second base player. I'm going to butcher this because I know how to play it. I just have a hard time explaining it. But because of how often the ball goes off in that direction, you actually need a player to stand there, right? So if the shortstop is going to go and catch the ball, the person who plays second base is supposed to run over to second base. What happens, though, is if the ball goes off in the other directions towards the right side of the field, so when we're talking about right and left, we're talking about being out towards where the batter is facing. So the batter is facing, your right field is to their right, and then left field is to their right, or to their left, excuse me. And what will happen is both second and short will play in tandem with each other. So like I always need to know where my short is. So I usually play second. And that's the whole purpose of it, because the ball is most likely going to go off in that direction.
I see. It's like gambling on the handedness of your batters, basically.
Exactly. But what you really end up doing, though, most of the time is if the ball goes off towards the right side of the field, then second base is generally taking on the role of trying to catch it, and shortstop needs to run to second base.
Okay. Well, I'm today years old when I finally learned what a shortstop is, despite writing a baseball episode.
There you go. And if anyone hates my explanation, you can send an email to mailbag@shawiniganmoments.ca. At some point, we'll have enough emails where we can start correcting things or explaining something, or we can also ignore your emails, I guess, too.
And remember, complaints go to pierre.polyev@gov.gc.ca.
No, that's not his email. It's pierrepolyev@parl.gc.ca. There's
right, it's Parl. Yeah, it's not
PARL, short for Parliament.
Yes, I remember now. Gov is the US. Anyway, this is actually where we catch up to the Heritage Minute, or at least what I think they're trying to depict in the Heritage Minute. On April 18th, 1946, in the season opener with the Jersey City Giants, in Roosevelt Stadium no less, he would get 4 hits with 5 at-bats, score 4 runs, and help carry the Royals to a 14-1 victory.
Jesus Christ, that's a high score for baseball.
Yes, the Giants mildly got annihilated. And this is kind of where I think this is what they were trying to depict. Within the minute, the pitcher is shown throwing the ball at Robinson, which is somewhat accurate. The Giants pitcher, Warren Sandel, was instructed to hit Robinson, but he refused to do so and just didn't.
Yeah, because if you get hit with a ball, you walk to first base, and it's also like a highly offensive act to do it on purpose.
Yes, but put a pin in that. That season, his inaugural season, this football player would go on to have a 3.49 batting average.
Just say you could just say 349. I could tell you're not a baseball person.
I'm not a baseball person. He has a 349 batting average, 985 fielding percentage.
That's pretty good.
And was named league MVP.
Those are impressive stats. Like a 349 and a 985 is like, you are a boss player. You can certainly do better on batting, but you're doing pretty damn well.
He also is 27 if you're doing the math on what year is it versus what year he was born. He's old.
Yeah, no kidding. I think like to be a 3.45 puts you in the range of like people like Babe Ruth territory, because I think he batted a 3.4 something.
That you're not the only one to notice this. He was both generally well liked by Montreal Royals fans, and after the 1946 baseball season concluded, and a minor stint playing professional basketball with the short-lived LA Red Devils franchise, the next year in 1947, he was called up to play in the Dodgers, the major leagues. 1 year in a feeder team. Incredible. This is, again, well, this year he'd be at the age of 28. He initially, because they had a very entrenched second base player, he would play first base initially, but that ended fairly quickly, and he became their kind of default starter for second base. So they did it. Racism in America, and by extension Canada, is solved forever, yeah? Right?
Yeah, I'm so glad we're reaching racial harmony and we've achieved equity amongst everybody.
Yeah, about that.
Oh, shit.
While Robinson had firm, and I mean firm support from the team manager, Leo DeRocher, sorry if I butchered that, he was subjected to all kinds of abuse. The racial epithets that he was contractually obligated to ignore, intentional attempts at injury by opposing teams, getting slid into having things thrown at him, including baseballs, which are fast and hard, and one alleged incident where the St. Louis Cardinals threatened to strike if Robinson was allowed to play, stay classy, Missouri, and that the strike would spread across the league, though Cardinal players themselves deny that any such strike action was planned or was going to take place, and none did take place.
It was just locker room talk, right?
Yeah, but ultimately the tide was turning, and for the 1948 season the following year, it would prove much less dramatic as more African-American players were entering the major leagues. By 1949, he got a song about him in Buddy Johnson's Did You See Jackie Robinson Hit That Ball?
I've actually heard that song before.
It's a banger. It's good. Not included because we're a young podcast and don't want to get copyright strikes. However, in 1949, he was also asked to testify before the House Un-American Activities Committee, because who wasn't in those days, over statements made by a fellow African-American athlete. Not even one I think he particularly knew. He was just asked to testify because McCarthyism is great.
Yeah, it didn't have any long-term effects on the United States.
1949 was also the year where he made his World Series debut, though they lost to the Yankees in 5. This will be a recurring theme. In 1950, he was the highest paid of any Dodgers player to that point, making $35,000 in 1950s dollars
Jesus
per year.
Christ, that's a lot of money.
$456,270 a year today.
Yeah, like that's not a lot of money by today's standards in MLB, but like in sports,
this was unprecedented because this was the beginning of unprecedented salaries. That year, he also played himself in The Jackie Robinson Story.
What a meta movie.
Yeah, Buddy was really moving up in the world. I'm happy.
Was it a movie
him.
or TV series?
It's a movie.
Oh, okay. Well, 1950, yeah, that makes sense.
He was still having an active baseball career. Dude can't shoot a TV series. He and the Dodgers would flirt with the World Series several times in his career, usually losing out to the Yankees, until 1955, when the Dodgers would win the World Series in 7 games, his first taste of victory. Though this overall wouldn't be a stellar year for the then 36-year-old Robinson, hitting .236 and stealing only 12 bases, which again, I hope he returned.
When we were watching that baseball game yesterday, we certainly saw people who had .236 up to bat.
Yeah, he did a normal amount of good, but again, he was their highest paid player.
Yeah, it makes sense. You don't want to be paying somebody who isn't really pulling their weight, so to speak.
1956 would only be a marginally better year for him, while they still made it to the World Series. In Game 7, which was the decisive one, if I remember correctly, he would strike out when he was up to bat. That kind of did it for them. The Dodgers would move to trade Robinson to the Giants, but surprise, Robinson had already made a deal with the then company president of Chock full of Nuts to accept a position as an executive within the coffee chain.
I was going to say, like, I haven't heard Chock full of Nuts as coffee in ages. That's a New York-based one, isn't it?
Yes, the New York coffee chain. So he truly was overrated, but never traded. He made a clean break. He quit out of baseball, and that's kind of what he did for the rest of his working years. But let's recap the career of this football player, having a 10-season baseball career. 6 World Series, one of which was a championship, 6 All-Star games, overall a .311 batting average, a .409 on-base percentage, 197 stolen bases. Again, I hope he gave them back.
No, he should not.
19 of them were a home plate, which is really important because you have less of those. And he was inducted to the Hall of Fame the very year he was eligible to be inducted. But his most crowning achievement was the uncountable legion of racist assholes who both will and have died mad about it.
Nice.
So, 1957, age 37. Jackie Robinson has retired. He would also that year, unfortunately, be diagnosed with diabetes, which at that time, despite the availability of insulin, wasn't as soluble as a problem as it is today. There was a lot more like physical degradation that would happen over the course of treatments, even with
regular injections. It's also a future top episode topic for us is on insulin.
Yes. The man who saved a lot of people's lives and asked for barely anything in return. In 1959, he entered into the whites-only waiting room of Greenville Municipal Airport in South Carolina and refused to leave after airport police were called and asked him to. A move you cannot get away with today.
I'm going to say, like, well, for one thing, segregation in that airport, I imagine does not exist anymore. But yeah, going toe-to-toe with airport police, especially these days, is never really going to work out for you.
Yeah, no. Do not do this at home.
Dudes rock.
Dudes rock. Like, this was a ballsy move, relying on the fact that he was now a coffee chain executive and a baseball celebrity. They weren't gonna do nothing. Later, at a NAACP speech in Greenville, he urged his fellow citizens to protest their second-class status.
Good.
Yes, he remained a politically active and outspoken advocate for civil rights all the way until his death, all the way throughout his career, especially critiquing the White Boys Club of team managers and administrators. This is a little harken back. Last episode, he once even turned down an old-timers game invitation at Yankee Stadium in 1969. I believe this was at a protest. Not for it being a Yankee Stadium, but because of these issues.
He's not even really an old-timer. There is one player in MLB who would have been Jackie Robinson's age. Like, he is Jackie Robinson's age at that point when he was invited to the Yankees stadium game. Like, I'm trying to remember. He pitches for, I want to say the Diamondbacks. I just can't remember his name. He's like 46 or 47. And, like, Jackie Robinson's only 2 years older than that. It's kind of wild.
Robinson would have been 50 at that time.
I don't know if I would call it old-timers at that point, but sure.
So, his final public appearance was on October 15th, 1972. Throwing the opening pitch to Game 2 of the World Series in Cincinnati, a stadium where not 24 years prior, fans were shouting slurs at him.
Cool.
And 9 days later, he would pass of a heart attack in his home at the age of 53.
I imagine that the heart attack must have been complications from his diabetes.
Most certainly.
He definitely was an impressive player and somebody who was a man of his own convictions.
He spent throughout his entire career, he was constantly agitating about the treatment that he received during playing, just generally. And he used his kind of status afterwards to be an agitator for civil rights. Did he go as far as some on the left might have wished? No, but he didn't cower in front of it, and he had a long track record of standing up for himself and his fellow man. So honestly, 10 out of 10 person.
One thing just to tie him back to, considering he does have a Heritage Minute, and it's not mentioned in the Heritage Minute, I believe, is that he, prior to his death, when he died in 1972, he also was a commentator for the Montreal Expos, doing their telecasts. He was only part-time. Like I don't know how much, like how many he did, but
yeah, he did a lot of like appearances and public speaking and stuff like that, and was still involved in the world of baseball again as a critical voice. But yeah, I think limiting his involvement to Montreal to just the Royals was a little bit reductive on Historic Canada's part, because he still kind of maintained ties to the city. And realistically, his time with the Royals was for one season and one season only, which is why I consider the Heritage Minute as depicting the season opener with Jersey City.
There's a bit from the Montreal Gazette from about a decade ago that published a letter that was read by Rachel Robinson, his widow. She said that, "I remember Montreal and that house very well, and I've always had warm feeling for that great city. Before Jack and I moved to Montreal, we had been through some very rough treatment in the racially biased South during spring training in Florida, like we mentioned earlier. In the end, Montreal was the perfect place for him to get his start. We never had a threatening or unpleasant experience there. The people were so welcoming and saw Jack as a player and as a man." And that's from the Montreal Gazette in 2011.
Beautiful. So yeah, that's the story of Jackie Robinson. What did we learn, sports fans?
I guess I'm being called out on this. Well, what I learned is that I have a problematic fave in the MLB, and that it's rather wild to think that no more than 20 years prior to my being born, Jackie Robinson was experiencing, absolute nonsense. Actually, 20 years, more like 24 years before I was born. No, I'm not that old. 25 years before I was born, the segregation in airports was still a thing in the United States. And to a certain extent, still sort of exists in other ways, just more subtle.
Yeah, it lives within my brain forever that American schools are more segregated than they were at the start of segregation because of the rise of charter and private schools.
Yeah, but hey, that's not our focus on this podcast, unfortunately. We'll just find other ways to talk about racism.
Thankfully, Historic Canada has given us a beautiful gift in a Heritage Minute just about rural schools, one-room schools. And oh boy.
Yeah, that's going to be our next episode.
I have some comments?
We don't even need to ask what the next episode is going to be. It's going to be a rough one, but it's still on baseball.
Yes, if this episode is about getting the racism out of baseball, next episode is going to be when we put it back in.
Yeah. Thanks for listening to the podcast. If you have any comments or questions, you can write to us at mailbag@shawiniganmoments.ca. We also have a Patreon. You go to patreon.com/shawiniganmoments. And if you feel like contributing to us, or I guess just contributing to us, I really don't know how to talk about giving us money. You'll definitely help us with the show.
We have a strictly coffee-based or coffee-pinned Patreon tier system.
Yeah, the really funny thing is we're talking about this right now, and there's a good chance that it might actually not be correct when we finally launch the Patreon. But if this part of the recording stays in and I haven't voiced it over, it'll be indexed to certain things that are being sold at Tim Hortons, a place that you get the best coffee in Canada, right?
It's a place where you get some coffee in Canada.
Do you know what I found out? So by the time this recording comes out, I'll be in the UK. And I found out that they have Tim Hortons in the United Kingdom. that you can
No.
drive. Yeah, no. I didn't realize this until, because I haven't been to the UK in like 7 years, right? And so I'm going to go there for 2 weeks. And plus I'm also going to Ireland as well. And I'm kind of curious about trying a British Tim Hortons.
Wait, so we can do localized pricing in both pounds, euros if it's in Ireland,
Ireland doesn't
and
have
USD.
any Tim Hortons.
Okay, so we can do pound
Spain
USD.
has Tim Hortons, though.
Pardon?
Spain has Tim Hortons.
So we can do regionalized pricing based upon our scientific index of large Tim Hortons coffee.
Before we can end the episode, let me find out where Tim Hortons are located in the UK, and if where I can find that, if it's actually anywhere near public transport, because I'm making it a point not to drive during this trip. So let's find out. Let's go on the Tim Hortons website. We're trying to finish the episode. By golly, I'm going to find where I'm going to be.
Over time as well.
Oh, who cares? All right, so in London, Notting Hill is probably one of the closest ones. Oh my God! So near Park Royal, in Park Royal rather, next to a Tesco. Okay, yeah. Cool. It's okay. So I found the Tim Hortons that's actually near a tube stop. So if I go to that one, that's an option. And then when I'm in Edinburgh, let's see here, because there should be one there. It's going to be nowhere. Nope, none in Edinburgh. So if I decide to go to a Tim Hortons in the UK, it'll have to be in the one near Notting Hill,
which also has a Burger King.
Yeah, well, they're owned by the same company.
I guess that, you know what, that's fair. This looks like, God, this you could copy paste. Are you looking at the satellite of this?
Sure. Let me pull up the satellite for this.
If you removed the text and told me, oh yeah, this is just some god awful Strode based suburb in like Alberta,
it's just a hypercenter or whatever the hell you call them.
Yeah, but like this is peak North American city design.
Okay, I found the Tim Hortons. I want to see where this is. Okay. Oh wow. You know what's wild is that they even have like, oh, this is so weird. It has a drive-through.
Yes.
It has donuts. Oh, I found a menu. Okay, well, I might do a little bit of a report back when we do our episode recordings upon my return.
Going to a fucking strip mall in the UK.
I have time that I could probably pull this off. I'm going to be in the UK long enough that I can go and visit this fucking horrible monstrosity. Like, Tim Hortons is already dog shit to begin with.
Oh, there's a Tesla center there.
I'm not driving a fucking Tesla.
I know, it's just this is all of North America shoved into one god-awful place.
In the next episode, after the next episode, I'll have a report about eating Tim Hortons in London.
Yes, it'll be a palate cleanser after the nightmare that is going to be next episode.
All right, well, that's a podcast, everybody. Thanks for putting up with our mini episode, or Tim Hortons Corner. We should do a Tim Hortons Corner.
Tim Hortons Corner.
What's up with Tim Hortons? We should make that a corner for this. We'll make it the first episode will be Heather visits a British Tim Hortons.
I could visit a US Tim Hortons. That's doable.
I've done that before. Anyway,
like regular Tim Hortons, but
goodbye, everybody. We're done with Tim Hortons Corner. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Shawinigan Moments is written and recorded on the unceded territories of the Squamish, Musqueam, Stolo, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations in what is otherwise called Vancouver.